country on earth, a nation in which the wealthiest people are becoming phenomenally rich, while we have over 40 million people living in poverty. The very least that we could say is that nobody in America goes.
The Pied Piper Bernie Sanders for the middle class. What a GOP wants to put our interests last. He's gonna give it to you raw, no hesitation. With the right ideas to lead this great nation. No handouts, no special interest groups. He don't lie to give votes, he's telling you the truth. And while the media wants to downplay him, he's still gonna fight. Tell him all he ain't playing. Push him for higher wages so we all can feed our families. The only one I know who can conquer this insanity of this Wall Street bickering, belittling the poor. Dollar bills, only thing they considering. When people need health care, kids need school. When it comes to politics, Bernie's breaking rules. No attack gets on the competition's needed. He's running on the facts and it's something that we needed. Feel the burn, make him feel the burn. All the way to the White House, feel the burn. Feel the burn, make him feel the burn. Till the haters on the right, they can feel the burn. Feel the burn, make him feel the burn. All the way to the White House, feel the burn. Feel the burn, make them feel the burn. Till the haters on the left, they can feel the burn. Yeah. You see him scared.
Oh, good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful Sunday. Actually, it's kind of cold and foggy here, but that's beautiful for Oregon. And, yeah, we have a Bernie rally on Canadian healthcare. What we can learn from Canadian healthcare, which my guess is a lot. I don't know that there's much in dispute of whether their healthcare system is better than ours. It, among many other countries' healthcare is better than ours. That's proven statistically everywhere. But our politicians don't think that. And for some reason, there's a good portion of American citizens that still think it's worse. And it's not. So we're gonna find out what Bernie has to say. Thank you all for joining us this morning. It's 8 a.m. here. How you doing? Yeah, Michael Rowe. Good morning. Good morning, John Keim. John Warren, Stock Post. Laura Livengood being here in a little bit. I guess she had to go get some tea. And I wanted to tell everybody before I'm monitoring, waiting for this to go live here on the University of Toronto Facebook. So if you don't want to watch this here with us at Uphill Media on YouTube, you can go to Facebook and watch it there on the University of Toronto Facebook page. That's the stream that I'm grabbing. We do this so that we can help amplify the message, and because Facebook's kind of jerky about it, and if you're going to stream to Facebook, you're not allowed to stream to any other destination point, which is really stupid. So if we pick it up and stream it to YouTube, Facebook can't really do anything about it. Go Revolution, right? Just working around the rules. Anyway, thank you all for joining us here. Let's talk about a couple things we have going on. If you saw the intro, we are officially a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are growing, and we are doing some incredible things nationally with our revolution as well as other groups. I want to tell you what we've got going on today after the Bernie Sanders rally. Let's get this to stop here. So right after the Bernie Sanders rally about healthcare is a Progressive Oregon with Larry Taylor, and the topic today is, what is the Democratic Party really? So Larry is going to help us with the inside information on that, and we're learning an awful lot from him about what we need to do to take back our government, and that's we become the party, folks, right? And we're working on it, and we've had a lot of wins. So this and then on tomorrow, Monday, at 7 p.m., we have Ruben Major as a candidate for California Secretary of State on We the People. And then on Wednesday, we have Jenny Marshall as candidate for North Carolina's District 5 on We the People. And then next week, November 6th, we have Chardo Richardson as candidate Florida 7th District. And I know there's more We the Peoples in there. I just don't have the cards loaded yet. And then coming up on November 26th, please save this date. All of these events are loaded on the homepage of Uphill Media YouTube channel. We have a progressive town hall, or a town hall for progressive democracy, rather. This is going to be an ongoing series. This one is getting ready for 2018. We're going to be doing more of these on a regular basis. The keynote speaker will be our Revolution President, Nina Turner. She will be joining us via live stream and our engagement broadcast system. It will be held at a physical location, and there will be physical speakers there. We're lining up different people. We'll have Gail McLaughlin, who will be joining us remotely as well. And the message is going to be about what we need to do as a progressive movement, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, to fund and support the candidates we want to see win in 2018. And we're already winning. Our revolution, by the way, has a 50% win record with progressive candidates. Think about that. We're not even, these are all special elections right now. We haven't even gone into the actual 2018 primaries. Everything that's been done right now has been special election, and we're kicking some serious ass. And that is good. That is exactly where we need to be. But they need your help. They need a lot more money. They need a lot more ground support. They need volunteers. They need people to do social media work. Everything and anything you can think of. When it's grassroots, we're talking grassroots, right? That's what it needs to be. So join us for that on the 26th. And here's Senator Nina Turner talk about where we're at, where we need to go. I was reading an article the other day about Our Revolution and what they've done. So far, I don't know how many candidates they have supported, but 50% win record on the candidates they've supported. $1.25 million raised for candidates heading into the 2018 primaries. That's what Our Revolution has done with 340 Our Revolution groups worldwide. That's huge. That's power. When we talk about how do we create an infrastructure, how do we take over the Democratic Party, this is what you do. You create organizations, and those organizations grow and build strength and create infrastructure within themselves and build their own databases and get their own marketing and their own websites and all of that stuff, just like the DCCC has, right? And the corrupt Democratic Party that exists now. We're going to take that over with this machine. And it's not just Our Revolution's machine, right? We've got Brand New Congress. We've got Justice Democrats. We've got Wolfpack. We've got so many others. I don't even know all the names. Revolution Funding. This is what it means to, we recreated in 2 years, we've created the progressive wing of the Democratic Party that is run by Bernie Sanders and independent, which just pisses off the Democratic Party even more. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. I didn't start early, Laura Live and Good. You're usually in here a half hour before Green Room, and I usually go at least 5 minutes before to talk about things. So I don't know what the deal is. You just woke up late on a Sunday, which is okay. It's Sunday. I just want to say that. So, it's Sunday, everybody. This is what we're doing for our democracy on a Sunday. Much rather be here with all of you. All right. It is 8:02. If any of you see the broadcast up on the University of Toronto page, please let me know. I'm just hovering on it, waiting for a live link to show up, and then we'll cut right to it. That's all I'm doing. So anybody, just out of curiosity, is anybody in here Canadian? Do we have any Canadians in the chat right now? 750, yes. Laura, 759. 2018 without the help of Van ought to be tough, Chemo. Yeah, well, we have Van database information. Senator Sanders has it. We have a giant email list. We've got that data, right? So, okay, they're going to block certain candidates from getting that information. I bet you we're going to get it into their hands. I bet you we're going to make that happen. I bet you we're going to enact lawsuits. It won't be hard to figure it out, right? And if we've got boots on the ground, then that's what it takes. I get it. We don't have, everything you see them doing right now is war. Right? Well, let's kick all of their people out because we don't know what to do with them. All right, let's make it really, really hard for them to even run, even though they're Democrats and we're supposed to be unified. What does a scared animal look like? It looks like Tom Perez and the DNC right now. It looks like a group of old people who realize that their time is gone. They're done. They're finished. They're washed up. They've been caught red-handed, and we're moving in to kick out the trash. And they know it. They know it. When you've got squatters, and you've been squatting and you can't get... This is what happens. Just, I don't want to go. You're not going to get rid of me. That's what all of them are. They're squatters. We're going to get rid of them, replace them with actual people who want to do work for the people. It's going to suck. It's going to be very difficult because they are going to fight us every way they can. And right now they have the upper hand. Right? They have the upper hand. We get it. We're going to claw our way to the top, and then we're going to beat them back down where they deserve to be. There's my analogy for Sunday morning. Still just waiting for the Toronto page to come up here, guys. Because we are a 501c3, if you donate to donate.uphillmedia.org, it's actually a tax-deductible donation. I don't know how all that works, but it is because we are, and you can do that. So just saying. Just want to say that. And if you're interested in joining us and helping us, getting involved in any way, if you're a candidate that needs technical help, that's part of what we do as a nonprofit, go to our website, uphillmedia.org, take a look at what's on there, what we do, how we help, right? And if you want to join the volunteer network, same thing, info at uphillmedia.org, and let us know. We'd love to have you. We're growing. This is what we need to do to change our democracy. Right? All right, well, U of T is 5 minutes late. Should we give him that? John Warren, true revolutions start from the ground up. You were doing all the right things. So it's, yeah, it is. It is exciting. It is. And you guys made this happen. I mean, and the reason I'm hitting donations so much is because Larry Taylor right now is having to cough up a whole bunch of cash. He's funding a lot of the things we're doing. I don't know if you, yesterday I was talking about the building that we have. All of the people in the organization are pretty out of pocket funding right now, plus what you guys have donated and the patrons. Thank you, patrons, so much for continuing to cover those bills. It is, you have no idea. Like, I just had to purchase 2 new power supplies for the 770s that Scott sent me, right? And because I don't know what happened to them, they just disappeared. But we'll be using those cameras for the event on the 26th at this event center, the Sunnyside Community House. And the Sunnyside Community House is a 100-year-old building, 100-year-old former church. And it's really, really cool inside. This is an amazing building. And I'm going up there next Thursday with Ash, and we're going to wire the building for Cat 5 so that we can do what we need to do in the church, because there's nothing run there. We're gonna build infrastructure in there so that we can continue to have events at this place. And the rate that they're charging us to have events is nothing. It's affordable. Like we can raise that money back in a singular event to cover and sustain operations, and that's what we need. So we have this base of operations where we can have about 300, 400 people in the building listening to speakers, and we can broadcast it live with our systems out. And that's what we needed in Portland. So we've got that going on, and we're going to hopefully set those kind of situations up with other progressive groups, our revolution groups in battleground states like Iowa, working down in California with Gail McLaughlin and doing the Progressive Oregon show. We want to branch out and do town halls. Our Revolution National is very much interested in doing a State of the Revolution ongoing live stream on a regular basis, right? So that we can keep everybody up to date. So all of those things we're working on. And the only reason we're able to work on them is because of you guys, because you keep sending us $5 and $2 and $10 whenever you can. So thank you. Appreciate it. All the money so far has gone into stuff, right? So nobody takes a paycheck here. I mean, we got a lot of work before that even happens. You think Paul Ryan is going to lose to Randy? Michelle? I hope so. Laura Live and Good says Randy's getting some great funding. Yeah, he is. Speaking of that, this whole operation, Larry Taylor is with the Progressive Caucus PAC. All right, the Progressive Caucus PAC is an Oregon caucus. Larry started it. It's not associated with the Democratic Party, but there are a number of members. Most of the members in it are card-carrying Democrats, but you don't have to be a member of the caucus. Caucus is really cool. A caucus is a group of people that want to pool their funds and focus on something political that they all share about, that is more refined, more focused than the general focus of a singular party like the Democratic or Republican Party or the Independent Party, right? So a caucus is like, we want to focus on this stuff, and we want to really work on it closely, not just with the Democratic Party, who's got a whole bunch of stuff to work at. And that's what Larry Taylor's been doing. And without Larry Taylor and the Progressive Caucus PAC, which it is a PAC, not a super PAC, we wouldn't be able to do many of the things that we're doing. I'm a member of the Progressive Caucus PAC. What's interesting about this PAC is that they won't take money from other PACs. They won't take money from other unions or other groups of pooled money. Doesn't matter who they are. All individual donations. And I thought that's interesting. It's kind of like hypocritical. We're a group that pools money together, but we won't take money from other groups that pool their money together. But that's okay. I mean, that's making sure that you don't ever make the mistake of taking money from the wrong place, right? Just individuals. And that binds them to these individual limits, right, of funding. Oh, Laura Liveman, good. I'm sorry, Bernie Rowley. Yes, you're right. This isn't a This isn't necessarily a Bernie rally. This is Bernie Sanders talking about Canadian healthcare and what we can learn from it. But anytime it's Bernie Sanders, I just call it a Bernie rally. Randy's Platt stock post. Randy's platform is progressive, so even he's getting funding, I won't mind, as Paul Ryan needs to go. Yeah, agreed. Hey, Charles Mon. Good morning. Yes, Charles is a member. Good morning, Marcus. I'm on their University of Toronto Facebook page. We got nothing, guys. So if anybody sees this out and going, let me know. But right now, they are not broadcasting. And we're just kicking it. Waiting. Super chat works again. Did notice. YouTube actually responded to my support request and fixed things. They fixed things. It's ridiculous. Never expected that. What else we got to talk about here while we wait for these guys? I expected it to be on by now. It's 8:11. This is where I usually find out that it's been running already, and I don't know where. Oh, Laura Live and Good's going to come in. Hey, Davey Z. Where the hell are you, Davey Z? Are you still in camping? Where are you? Tell me where you are. Anytime that Bernie shows up, it becomes a Bernie rally. Exactly. Hey, Laura Live and Good. Where the hell are you, Davey Z? Are you still in? Okay, so you're watching the event, Laura. So I'm live, and Laura Live and Good just jumped in the Hangout. But she's got the video running so I can hear myself. And I'm trying to get her to stop that, but it's very interesting. All right. Well, I have your audio off. I don't know if you want to talk to anybody. We're just waiting, guys. Honestly, I expected this to be on. I don't have much more of a show. I didn't have anything else to talk about, really. Just wanted to go live with Bernie and be done with it. It's early Sunday morning. I've only had 2 cups of tea. And I got stuff to do. Gotta get stuff ready. We're in a pretty bad place, says Real Jingy, when you expect a giant corporation to fail to provide even decent customer service if they have such a thing. Yeah, exactly. Davey Z just can't get away too peaceful. All right. Kevin, how is the power bill with all the gear running? We run a lot of things here because we got a orchard. I got grow lights and other things going on, but it's not so bad. It's basically 2 big servers and 4 little machines running at the same time. So it's not so bad. Power is not yeah. The issue here, I got two issues. Brahm's going to solve one of them because he donated an entire server that we're naming Scott. Right? The motherboard, oh, thank you, John. Who's donating money already? Thank you, John. Okay. Eileen 1, the original server, is tired, and the network, it's a dual Ethernet card, and it just dies. When we're in the middle of a show and all of a sudden I've got no internet connection, that's the motherboard freaking out and the Ethernet connections die. And that's not good for anything we do, because you never know when that's going to happen. So I need to replace the motherboard. All the other parts are fine, but Brahm donated most of what I need to build a new server that we're going to name Scott, in Scott's honor. And once I have that done, we'll swap out for Eileen, and then eventually I can build 2 machines because I just need to get a new motherboard for Eileen 1 and stick it in a new box. And then that's going to go to the Sunnyside Event Center, the community house, and then we'll have a production unit there. And we'll get some people trained, and they'll be able to do a lot more events without me having to worry about it down here. And so we'll be able to expand on what we do. And with another main server there, a production server, we'll be able to do a lot more fancy stuff, right? On screens and different things. So that's what I'm working for. Let's do a screen refresh here. Don't know what the deal is. Not that I don't know that the University of Toronto is one of the places that's having this issue, but I want to tell you, when I had a conversation last week with, or not last week, a couple days ago, actually. Time's going crazy. With Our Revolution National. And we were talking about live streaming. We were talking about what it takes, right? And they were relating to the same problems that we discovered as Bernie 2016 TV. Those of you who are out there watching this don't know. We started as Bernie 2016 TV. That's what this network was. And then I created 5 channels of Bernie 2016 TV. And then after that, we turned it into Political Revolution TV. And we ran that for a while. And Laura Livengood was there. And a lot of people were there. We're just gone with the volunteer group from the beginning. Then we changed it to Uphill Media when we met Ashley and Larry. And I moved down to Corvallis. And now it's... now we've become legitimate 501c3. This is what we do. Anyway, we have gone through the problems of how do you upstream from wherever you are? How do you bring in a Bernie rally? And we had to learn the hard way that you can't just use a phone, right? We had to learn the hard way that you need to. Hey, Babs, how you doing? So I ended up with LiveView. And LiveView is a company that we're a promotional partner with LiveView, and we have a LiveView Solo. There. This is it. Scott's had it most of the time. We've had this more than a year. It went to Democracy Spring. It's not very big, right? All right, so it looks like there is a vid running, but it's running on a page. Hang on, guys. Laura Livengood just dropped it, and then we'll get this going. Apparently, there's something going already. Not sure why it's here. All right.
Special interests who are not content to make billions of dollars in profit. There are individuals in the United States not content to be worth $50 or $100 billion.
Here we go, guys. It's not even on the channel that they said it was going to be on.
More and more.
Here we go.
And they are prepared to step on anybody and everybody to get their way. Now, what one might think, and the Premier made the point, that we should be looking, all of us should be looking. Canadian healthcare system, not perfect. British National Health Service, not perfect. No country in the world has all of the answers and never will as technology changes, as needs change. And sensible policies, and the president of this university made the point, we look all over the world and we ask the hard questions. Is it working better there? What can we do to make our system better? Right now in the United States of America, as many of you know, we have 28 million Americans who have no health insurance, none whatsoever. We have, what you don't know, is even more than that, people who have high deductibles and high co-payments who are underinsured, which means that when they get ill, and I know it is a bit hard for Canadians to understand that, but when they get ill, they do not and cannot go to the doctor because they don't have enough money to pay for the deductibles or the co-payments. Maybe it's $50, maybe it's $30. They don't have that money. And as a result, when they get their symptom, when they're ill, they hesitate going, and they wait and they wait and they wait. And I have talked to too many doctors in my state of Vermont and all over this country who tell me that there are times when people walk into their offices so ill that in fact their situation is terminal unnecessarily. They could have been dealt with if they came in when they should have. And the truth is not widely discussed in America that we lose thousands and thousands of people every single year unnecessarily because they don't go to the doctor when they should. In terms of Dr. Martin, she came to Washington not only to help us initiate a Medicare for All program. She was there earlier, and we had her on a panel when I was chairman of a subcommittee. And one of my Republican colleagues started to do what is often done, not tell the truth about the Canadian healthcare system. or not tell the truth about systems all over the world. And he started in his line of argument. And Dr. Martin did not take those attacks lying down. She stood up, she fought back, she refuted him point by point. And 31 million people have seen that video on Facebook, and literally not just in the United States, not just in Canada, but all over the world. So Dr. Martin, thank you very much. Now, I'm here to talk, obviously, about health care, but I think as the Premier indicated, when you talk about health care, you're not just talking about health care, you're talking about history, how we got to where we are today. You're talking about values, because how a society deals with health care is more than medicine, it's more than technology. It is about the values that those societies hold dear. In 1945, after the horrible suffering of World War II, the British Labour Party won a landslide victory in the United Kingdom. And there was a man named Nye Bevan, not all that well known around the world today. He had been, at the age of 13, a coal miner in Wales. His father was a coal miner. He dropped out of school. He went into the mines at the age of 13. And from that, he became involved in the trade union movement, became involved in the British Labour Party. And in 1945, he was named to be Minister of Health in that government, Labour government. And he said, upon assuming that position, that within 1 year, every person in the United Kingdom would have health care as a right. And on July 5th, 1948, in an historic moment for modern civilization, he cut a ribbon. The hospitals and the doctors' offices throughout the United Kingdom became available to all without any cost to the patient. And he laid out 3 principles for the national health system. 1, that it meet the needs of everyone. 2, that it be free at the point of delivery. 3, that it be based on clinical need, not ability to pay. Closer to home, and I know you know this story, here in Canada in 1947, Tommy Douglas. So I gather you know who Tommy Douglas is. He was the, as you all know, the Premier of Saskatchewan. And in 1947, he introduced the Saskatchewan Hospital Services Plan, the first universal hospital insurance program in North America. In 1959, he announced a Medicare plan for his province, which became law a few years later, and as you all know, became the model for the Canadian healthcare system. Saskatchewan was the first place in North America to guarantee health care to all people regardless of their income. And that was another historic day. Now, my point about mentioning Bevan and Douglas is to point out that their work did not happen in an accident. It wasn't the case of Nye Bevan saying, you know, I kind of think it's a good idea to have health care for all. He came into office as a result of a landslide victory of the Labour Party, where working people all over Great Britain looked around them and said that human dignity demands that all people have health care. He did what the people of his country wanted him to do. And the same thing in Saskatchewan. It wasn't Tommy Douglas saying, hey, I have a great idea. I woke up, last night, I got a dream, and this is a good idea. He was able to implement his program because his political party at that point, the Cooperative Commonwealth Federation, won 47 out of 52 seats in the Saskatchewan's legislature in 1944. Point being here that real change, and the change in the UK and the change in Saskatchewan is very real change. It never happens from the top on down. Real change always happens from the bottom on up. And as all of you know, that change never takes place easily. Frederick Douglass, the great American leader of the abolitionist movement, always reminded us that freedom is never given to you. If it's given to you, it's not real freedom. You got to struggle for it. You got to fight for it. You got to take it. And that is the history of all real change in this world. It's the history of the workers' movement, of working people working under terrible, horrendous conditions in my country, all over the world, working 60, 70 hours a week, where you had children of 10 or 11 years of age working in factories, working in the fields, where workers could be arbitrarily fired for any reason that their boss gave. And workers stood together, and they were beaten and sometimes killed, sometimes jailed, because they said, working people are entitled to basic human rights. We will have unions. We will have collective bargaining. And that is the history of the civil rights movement. I was just talking to Dr. Claudia Fagan, who came here with me from Chicago, talked about Martin Luther King's great speech, which I happened to be at, during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. And what people must understand about the civil rights movement in America, it wasn't just Dr. King, as great as he was, as great a leader as he was, extraordinary leader. It had been going on for 100 years, from people who stood up, were beaten, were lynched, who demanded that in America we end racism. And many of those heroes and heroines, we will never know who they were. But when Lyndon Johnson, President Johnson, signed the Civil Rights Act in 1965, that was the result of people at the grassroots level for many, many decades. The same thing with the women's movement. Women fought and died 100 years ago today in the United States of America. Women did not have the right to vote. They got a divorce. They didn't have property rights. Women and their male allies said, excuse me, that is not acceptable. Women will not continue to be second-class citizens. And at the grassroots level, people stood up and fought back. And that's the history of the gay rights movement, where people, again, said, we will not be humiliated. We will not be ashamed because of our sexual orientation. We are human beings. We are human beings, and we will have the right to love whomever we want. And that is the history of the environmental movement, when very courageous people looked out around them and saw the terrible things that were happening to our environment decades and decades ago. And that is our mission today. Our mission is to have the courage to ask the questions that may not be appearing on television tonight or in the front pages of the paper. To ask the questions that take on the incredibly powerful special interests who have so much power in my country, your country, and all over the world, to ask a simple question: whether we find it acceptable that the 6 wealthiest people in the world today own as much wealth as the bottom 50% of the world's population. To ask a question which very few in my country will ask: whether it is acceptable in the United States that we have more income and wealth inequality than any major country on earth, with the top 1/10 of 1% now owning almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%, and where over 50% of all new income in the last number of years is going to the 1%. And a lot of people are uncomfortable about asking those questions, because you know you're taking on very powerful special interest. You're taking on campaign donors, people who might contribute to the university, and you kind of step back. And no, I wasn't talking about, I don't know anything about this university. I know all about universities all over my country. All right? But those are the tough issues. Taking on the fossil fuel industry. And telling them that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of our planet. Way back in 1944, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, one of our great presidents, gave a State of the Union speech which historically has received relatively little attention. And in that speech, he introduced a new concept to American politics, and a very radical concept indeed. And what he said in so many words, he said, look, we in the United States have a great Constitution, and we do, and we are very proud of that. And we have a great Bill of Rights, which says that you have freedom of speech, you have freedom of religion, you have freedom of assembly, that newspapers have a right to publish anything they want to publish. And of course, we are trying to get Donald Trump to read the Constitution of the United States, But he said, and all of that is very, very important. But then he said something else. And he said that we have come to a clear realization of the fact that true individual freedom cannot exist without economic security and independence. And then he continued, he said, among these economic rights are the right to adequate medical care and the opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health, the right to adequate protection from the economic fears of old age, sickness, accident, and unemployment, the right to a good education. All of these rights spell security, end of quote. What was he talking about? What he was saying is, of course, all of us believe in the right of freedom of speech, the right to vote for the candidate you want to vote for, the right to publish what you want to publish. That's inherent in all of our democratic societies. But he asked the question, how free are you if you are 70 years of age in the United States of America and you cannot afford the prescription drugs you need to stay alive? How free are you if you're a single mom trying to raise your kid with dignity and you're making $11 an hour? How free are you if you're one of the 28 million Americans who cannot afford to go to the doctor when you get sick because you have no health insurance? And that is a very important debate that we need to have. What does freedom mean? And to my mind, when we talk about human freedom, it's not just the right to vote, but it is the right to live in security and dignity with a decent job, decent educational opportunities. Health care is a right, and live in an environment which is clean and which is not being destroyed by climate change. And in the United States, 21 years after Roosevelt gave his speech, Lyndon Johnson won a landslide victory in 1964 after President Kennedy, of course, was assassinated. And in 1965, Johnson signed legislation creating what we call Medicare, which is a public health insurance program for people 65 or older. And at the same time, he signed a program called Medicaid, which provides health care to lower-income people. And what is very interesting when we think about the debate going on all over the world in terms of austerity efforts, etc., is that the national health system in the UK, your Canadian healthcare system, our Medicare system remain extremely popular today. People understand a good thing when they have it. In 2004, as I think all of you know, a poll conducted by the CBC named Tommy Douglas the greatest Canadian. Now, I want to take you into what is going on politically in America and do it in a way that relatively few members of Congress will do. Because something very different and, in a sense, unprecedented is going on in the country, and it is more than just Donald Trump. What we are looking at right now is a very powerful group of billionaires led by the Koch brothers. Anybody here hear of the Koch brothers? Well, learn about them. Because there are many people, including myself, who will tell you that these two brothers, who are worth about $90 billion, are more powerful politically in the United States than either the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. And the reason for that is they have developed their own extreme right-wing political network, which not only in a given campaign cycle, and we have congressional elections every 2 years, will contribute hundreds of millions of dollars to elect right-wing candidates who represent the interest of the wealthy and the powerful. But above and beyond that, they establish think tanks, they establish chairs at universities throughout the country, they have significant influence over the media. And what is the agenda of this incredibly wealthy family? It is an agenda which says that government should play virtually no role in our lives, perhaps except for defense. That concepts like Social Security or public health or public education should be scrapped and privatized. That we should move America back to where we were in the 1920s, when working people had no protection as workers, where the elderly, the children, the sick, and the poor had virtually no rights at all. That we should go back to a society where freedom was based on the amount of money that you had in your bank account. And they are spending enormous amounts of money. They have taken the Republican Party from what used to be what we would call a center-right party to a right-wing extremist party. A party that several months ago, if you can believe it, voted to throw some 30 million Americans off of the health insurance they currently have by making massive cuts to our health insurance programs and by ending the Affordable Care Act established by Barack Obama. Fortunately, literally by one vote, we were able to beat them back on 5 separate occasions. But they are back again. And I want to tell you about the budget because this is what they stand for. This is what the Koch brothers are paying for. Now, I want you to think about it. The United States now, we have massive levels of income and wealth inequality. For 40 years, our middle class has been shrinking. We have 40 million people living in poverty at the same time as the wealthiest people are doing phenomenally well. That is the economic reality of America today. And what the Republican leadership is proposing and passed is a budget which says that we will provide over a 10-year period $1.9 trillion in tax breaks for the top 1%. It is a shame. It is a disgrace. And then they have a provision in there which would provide hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to the top 0.2%, including the Koch brothers family, which would get a $30 billion tax break, not having to pay the estate tax after they died. And in that budget, they want to throw 15 million people off of health care by cutting Medicaid by $1 trillion. They want to make massive cuts to federal aid to education, to nutrition, and to needs of the elderly and the children. That is what happens when billionaires are able to buy a political party. Don't let it happen in Canada. And what that would mean if they got their way, I mean, it's almost indescribable, and I think half of you won't believe me when I tell you what, in fact, it would mean. If you throw 15 million people off of health insurance, children will die who are sick, kids with disabilities will not get the care that they need. We want, in America, to make public colleges and universities tuition free. They want to make it more difficult for our young people to get to college at a moment when the world is changing so rapidly and young people need more education. Let me just conclude my remarks by saying this. In the United States, the vast majority of the people, in fact, believe in a democratic and humane society. Right now, what we are taking on as a result of a disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision is a situation where billionaires are undermining our democracy and are effectively buying elections. Our job in the United States is to overturn Citizens United and establish a vibrant democracy of one person, one vote. And when we do that, we also have to be mindful of something else. And that in America today, as many of you may know, many Republican governors are working overtime to suppress the vote. We have in America one of the lowest voter turnouts of any major country on earth. Our job is to get more people to participate in the political process, and yet we have governors who are trying to make it harder for people of color, for young people, for poor people to participate. And we're going to take them on as well. Now, yesterday, we had a wonderful, wonderful trip, and I want to thank all of those responsible for our ability to go to the hospitals and meet so many great physicians and administrators. And we learned a lot about your system and the extraordinary things that your system is doing. And there's so much to be learned, and we will take back what we learned here and what we know about the Canadian healthcare system to the United States Congress and to the American people. And as the Premier mentioned a moment ago, we in the United States have got to ask a simple question. How does it happen that here in Canada, you provide health care to every man, woman, and child, and you do it at 50% of the cost that we spend on health care in the United States? And the answer is, to a significant degree, that we have a health care system not designed to provide quality care to all people in a cost-effective way, but frankly a system designed to make billions in profit for the drug companies and the insurance companies. And the issue of the pharmaceutical industry, by the way, is not just an issue for the United States. It's an issue for you as well. Your prices in Canada, depending on, obviously, the drug, are often 50% of what they are in the United States. And many years ago, I took a bunch of people from my state of Vermont across the border, go up to Montreal to buy medicine at a fraction of the cost we were paying in Vermont. But you are also paying some of the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. And our job is to tell the pharmaceutical industry that they cannot continue to rip off the people of the United States, Canada, or any place else while they're making unbelievably excessive profits. And there is another area where I think the United States and Canada are in the same boat, and it's not a good boat, and that is regarding dental care. I can tell you that in the United States, dental care is very, very expensive. There are many low-income people who basically, and children who cannot get to the dentist when they need. And any physician will tell you that when you talk about health care, dental care is part of health care, cannot be ignored. So let me thank all of you for being here. Thank the people who organized this visit. And thank you for the values that this province and this country are showing to the world. They mean a lot to many of us. Thank you so much.
Good morning. I'm Marilyn Emery, and I'm the President and CEO of Women's College Hospital. It is my pleasure to introduce a colleague and a friend who has played a pivotal role in improving health care here at home and beyond our borders. At Women's College Hospital, we are on a mission to close gaps in our healthcare system. In 2013, we founded the Women's College Hospital Institute for Health System Solutions and Virtual Care. WEAVE, as we call it, is a real-world solutions engine tackling some of the toughest challenges in our healthcare system, from wait times to access to prescription medicines and the use of technology to improve care at home and in the community. Dr. Danielle Martin has helped to lead that work, and we are so proud that her vision, policy expertise, and passion for equity have made her a leader in the debate over the future of healthcare in Canada. I hope you will all join me in welcoming Dr. Danielle Martin, a practicing family physician and Vice President at Women's College Hospital, to the stage.
Thank you, and Senator, of course, we're extremely honored to have you here with us. And we had a wonderful time yesterday, some wonderful dialogue with Canadian patients and healthcare providers about what's working in Canadian healthcare and what isn't. But of course, you knew a lot about the Canadian healthcare system before you came. In the process of drafting the Medicare for All bill, I know that you and your colleagues learned even more. I'm curious to know what surprised you yesterday. What was unexpected?
One of the things that surprised me was the degree to which both patients and physicians appreciated and understood the importance of getting money out of the care process. In other words, we talked to some patients who had very serious medical problems. Is the mic not working? Who had some very serious health problems. And what everybody knows is that when you are sick, if you're diagnosed with heart disease, you need surgery, or cancer, and you have to go through all of that difficult therapeutic process, what you want to focus on is how you get well. And I think what the patients and the doctors said is that it was of enormous importance for patients not having to worry about how they're going to pay the bill. Imagine struggling with cancer and filling out all kinds of forms and wondering what happens if you leave the hospital $50,000 in debt, and how you're going to be able to pay that. Is your family going bankrupt? Not only is that painful unto itself, it hinders your ability to recover and focus on your own needs. And doctors said the same thing. They said, we can provide the therapy and the medicine that our patients need and not worry about having to get permission from the insurance companies or having to worry about whether our patient can afford that test. So from both the doctor's point of view and the patient's point of view, understanding that the goal is to make the patient well and not have to worry about how that patient is going to be able to afford the treatment, that is just an enormous step forward in providing good medicine. That's something I learned yesterday.
So we know that, of course, the Canadian system is not perfect, but I think many Canadians, in a very polite way, take some umbrage to some of the myths that we hear propagated about Canada in the American healthcare debate. I'm wondering if you could tell us what is the most important myth to bust about the Canadian healthcare system, and what can the people in this room do to help you bring facts to that conversation?
Good question. I was on at a hearing in the Senate, and some senator said, you know, if you have health care as a right, it means that physicians are slaves. Now try to follow this logic. Stay with me. Because if I have health care as a right, I can knock on your door at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you must provide health care to me at that moment. Therefore, you are literally a slave was the word used. So my question to the American physicians who were up there on the panel was whether or not they believed they were living in slavery. You will not be surprised to know that they did not. The other issue is quality of care. Yeah, it's great to be able to provide quality of care. It's great to be able to provide health care to all people. Quality is substandard. Waiting times are interminable. People get ill, they can't get in to the doctor when they need it. And again, I think what we all know, and you know is better than anybody who wrote a book on the subject, Canadian healthcare system is not perfect. It has its problems. But I think there are just a whole lot of very intentional lies and distortions. These are not misunderstandings. These are very intentional lies in order to try to convince the American people that the current dysfunctional system we have is the best that we can do.
So, I mean, we have a room full of people here who, judging by their reactions, don't feel enslaved. I would venture to say even perhaps feel liberated from the worry that you have described about what will happen if any of us gets ill tomorrow. How can we help?
I know that Canadians are well known throughout the world as gentle and kind people. Be a little bit louder. And stand up and fight. Stand up and fight for what you have achieved and defend it. Look, I'm in politics and I get criticized every day. I'm sure the premier gets criticized every day. Nothing is perfect and people have different points of view about everything. But when you accomplish something significant, like guaranteeing health care to all people, stand up and defend that all over the world. Let me give you another example. And we're fighting for this. You know, we're making a little bit of progress. In the United States of America today, there are women who are giving birth right now, today, and they will be forced to go back to work in 4 or 5 weeks because they need the income to take care of their family. It happens all over the United States. Now here, as I understand it in Ontario or nationally, if you have a baby, you get a year's paid leave. Is that right? That is, again, an enormous accomplishment which allows a mom and a dad to bond with the baby, not force a mother to go back to work before she should. Stand up and defend that paid leave. Now, on all of these issues, raising the minimum wage to a living wage, pay equity for women, rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, we are working hard, and in some cases we are making good progress. But what is very important in the American debate is to have not only Canadians, but people all over the world standing up and saying health care is a right. When you have a baby, you have a right to stay home. If you work 40 hours a week, you should not live in poverty. And we need you to say those things so that those of us in the United States who are fighting these fights are not told, oh, what you're saying is it's too radical. It can't happen. We want to join you in saying, well, it is happening, actually, in countries all over the world. How radical an idea is it, for example? Something that we're pushing in the United States, I know you're pushing here. To say that in a world where technology is changing every day, where the education system must change with that technology, if we're going to be able to get the good paying new jobs that are being developed, how radical an idea is it to say that we must extend the concept of public education from first grade to 12th grade through higher education? It's not a radical idea. So we need your help. Stand up. Fight for your country to do even better, but defend with pride what you have achieved.
So I have a final question that's quite linked to that, actually, and it relates to the process of making change, because it's hard. What you are up against is hard, and I must say, even here in Canada, the changes that we need to make to improve our health and social systems feel hard to many of us at times. You know, the inclusion of prescription medications, universal pharmacare, dental care. We're all on a journey here, and the change is not easy. How do you think we're going to be able to achieve it?
The journey is not easy, and the journey never has been easy for human rights and for human dignity. And what I worry very much about, which we don't talk about for, again, obvious reasons, is that in my country and in many parts of the world, we are moving away from democracy into kleptocracy and oligarchy. And that is, in country after country, you are seeing a small handful of people control not only the economies, but also the politics of that country. And what we need to do all over the world is develop strong grassroots movement. We need to tell every person, every working person, every young people that you are sorely mistaken if you think that politics is not important to your lives, that it is absolutely imperative that you be involved. If you want a climate that is livable, you got to be involved in politics, because there are very, very powerful special interests who could care less about the planet. If you want to expand and protect what you have in healthcare or in education, there are people out there in every country in the world who think that it is more important to give tax breaks to the richest people in this country than to provide healthcare or education or economic rights for working people. And what we need to do is take those oligarchs on. That is the fight of the moment. So we can argue amongst ourselves, what is the best way forward on healthcare? What is the best way forward for the economy? What is the best way, how do we have the great universities that we want? All of that needs serious debate and discussion. But I will tell you with 100% certainty, there are people who are enormously powerful, who have more wealth than you can dream of, who could care less about your lives, about your children, about your parents. They want it all economically. They want it all politically. And we in the United States, Canada, all over this world, we have got to stand together and tell these oligarchs that this planet belongs to all of us and not just to a handful.
Good morning and bonjour. My name is Dr. Kwam Mackenzie. I'm the CEO of the Wellesley Institute. We're one of the proud co-sponsors of this event. The Wellesley Institute aims to improve health and health equity, and we do this through policy development based on the social determinants of health. My job is to introduce Ed Broadbent, who's going to give a vote of thanks. But before that, I'll take the liberty just to say that Senator Sanders and Dr. Martin, thank you for your inspiration, your leadership, and your passion. We may be divided by a border, but we're united by the common goal of wanting to think of health as a human right. And thank you for that. So 60% of what makes us sick and what keeps us ill is the social determinants of health. And social inclusion, social cohesion, proper democracy, housing, education, equality, and freedom from fear and persecution are some of the most potent preventive medicines. Ed Broadbent knows this. He's a colossus in social policy, was as an MP for 21 years, leader of the New Democratic Party for 14 years, and now is chair of the Broadbent Institute. And I'd like to invite him to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, Premier Wynne, President Gertler, fans of Bernie Sanders. I want to pick up on what Bernie said just a minute ago and say, as one Canadian Social Democrat, to all of you, I'd like you to give a very special, loud welcome to North America's leading Social Democrat, Bernie Sanders. On a personal level, Bernie, I have to say, as a guy who's somewhat older, it's a pleasure for me to see such energy coming from a much younger man. The Medicare for All campaign that Senator Sanders recently launched is critically important, and when it succeeds, will greatly improve the health, literally, of tens of millions of Americans. And I want to say that it's no accident that it is this continent's most admired progressive who is leading this campaign. One of the basic tenets of social democracy is that some rights, such as health care, are best safeguarded by being removed entirely from the vagaries and unfairness of the marketplace. As Bernie Sanders has said many times, and he repeated it here this morning, and I quote, "Health care must be recognized as a right, not a privilege." As a Canadian, I want to thank Senator Sanders for prompting much-needed reflection, not only on his health care system, but on ours. He modestly titled his talk today, "What the U.S. Can Learn from Canadian Health Care." And I'm sure that there is much, as he's indicated already, that our American friends and neighbors can learn. But Canadian Medicare is now 55 years old. Today it's wildly popular with our fellow countrymen, untouchable as a basic right by any political party. But it's worth reminding ourselves that it took a considerable struggle to establish our Medicare system. Struggle, as Bernie has just said, is key to any social reform. And when Canada's first social democratic government brought in Medicare in Saskatchewan on Canada Day, appropriately enough in 1962, it was widely expected to fail. Instead, it spread across the country, becoming popular with all other political parties eventually, and became national legislation within a decade. I have no doubt that these same levels of public support will be there for Senator Sanders' groundbreaking proposal, which in many respects, I say candidly as a Canadian and with no false modesty, is superior to what we have here in Canada. Unlike our Medicare, Senator Sanders' Medicare for All plan is comprehensive. It concludes not only hospitals and physicians, which we cover, but also, and get this, and these are part of his plans for the U.S., eye care, dentistry, psychological services. And prescription drugs for all citizens. I'm sure you agree that we do indeed have much to learn from him. In that regard, I was pleased to note that last month the New Democratic Party introduced in Parliament to create a new national pharmacare program. It didn't pass, but I can tell you the struggle for it will continue. And I also want to note, and it pleases me a lot, that the man who will lead that battle, Jagmeet Singh, is with us today. Thank you, Senator, for what you have said today. Thank you for your tireless leadership on behalf of Americans. Thank you for your decades of friendship and collegiality with the people of Canada. We wish you a bon voyage.
Thank you. My name is Greg Marshall, and I'm the director of the North American Observatory in Health Systems and Policies. And my job here for the next couple of minutes is just to provide some closing remarks on behalf of the academic partners, the Dalla School of Public Health here at the University of Toronto. Senator, your visit here is a great example of the need for cross-border policy learning, the very reason the North American Observatory was created. A network of independent academics located in universities throughout North America, observatory scholars are conducting systematic studies on how healthcare is financed, organized, and delivered throughout the world. It focuses here in North America at both the national and, even more importantly, at the provincial and state levels where many of the critical policy decisions are made. We can only understand our similarities and our differences, and we can only evaluate and judge our innovations, our successes, and yes, our failures through systematic comparison. We use what we learn from others to question our own ways of doing things and our own assumptions and biases. Most important of all, we use comparison to catch a glimpse of what might be possible. Senator Sanders, you've received a welcome today in Canada that is normally reserved for celebrity rock stars. Bob Marley, in a song he once sang in this city, said, "In this great future, you can't forget your past." True, we never should. But nor should we treat the past and the present as a prison which determines our future. This morning, I walked past Convocation Hall at 8:30 a.m. on my way to my office. As I was walking by, I saw the future. Hundreds of young students, young people. Many of you are in here today. Unfortunately, some are outside still. All lined up to hear Senator Sanders. And it is you who are going to build this great future. To close, I thank Senator Sanders and Dr. Martin, but I also want to thank all of you because you represent that hopeful future for being here today. May I ask you to rise as you are able and remain standing at your seats for the departure of the platform party, and I thank you all for coming today.
That was an amazing conversation. That was pretty awesome. A lot of great statements by everybody there. Dr. Danielle Martin, good conversation with Bernie. I don't even know where to start with cutting out segments there. Thank you all for joining us. There's more than 200 people watching right now. Appreciate you being here. Join us at 10 o'clock Pacific. It's not too long from now. Progressive Oregon with Larry Taylor and Betsy Cunningham. They're going to be talking about Oregon politics and how we're moving forward there with the progressive movement to take over from the establishment. And believe me, even in Oregon, the Democratic establishment has control. We could be much farther ahead than we are right now, and so we're going to do that. We're taking over that party with the progressive movement. Larry Taylor talks about the details of how we do that. What do we need to know? What's going on directly in our areas? And so join us for that at 10. Tomorrow, join us for We the People. We've got a lot of those going on. This is Monday, We the People with Ruben Major. He's a candidate for California Secretary of State. And on Wednesday, we have Jenny Marshall. She's a candidate for North Carolina's 5th District. Next week, we have Chardo Richardson, who's a candidate in Florida, 7th District. The big one we've got coming up is on November 26th. Join us, Town Hall for Progressive Democracy, getting ready for 2018. Keynote speaker Nina Turner, the president of Our Revolution and former Ohio State Senator. And she'll be joining us via remote live stream through our engagement broadcast system. Uphill Media is a nonprofit, 501(c)(3) nonprofit, C3 nonprofit, and we do run on your donations. Donate.uphillmedia.org or info@uphillmedia.org if you're interested in volunteering, or if you're a progressive organization or candidate that needs help. We work with you guys to help you live stream and get ready for interviews or know what tech you need, and we also book you to be interviewed on our shows. So thank you all for being here. Great crowd today. Go out there and do some democracy. Doesn't matter where you are. It can always be better. I mean, you heard that from the Canadians. They've got a great system compared to the United States. Most countries do. But theirs can be better. We hear Marcus talk about how the German system could be better. And you know, we all have work to do. You want a better democracy, you have to get involved with it. You can't just vote. You actually have to take your power. And you can take as much as you want. You can start just being a PCP in a town, a county, which is a precinct committee person. It's the lowest level on the rung. And you can go all the way to be president of the United States if you want. Right? If Donald Trump can be president, anybody can be president. A shoe could be president. Right? All right. We're going to go out with a song. Thank you, Marcus, for grabbing this for me. Except I got to load it up. I was too busy watching Bernie. Here we go. What did he pick for us today? I asked Marcus for an end song, and he picked Superchunk, European Medicine. So there you go. Again, join us at 10 for Progressive Oregon with Larry Taylor and Betsy Cunningham. And thank you all for being here. Still 150. That's great. All right. Getting out of here with this. We'll put up credits in a second. Bye, everybody.